Good morning, America. I'm Charles Gibson.
I'm Diane Sawyer, and it's Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
It is lunchtime in London, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, and 8 a.m. here in New York. Live from the CNN Financial News headquarters.
Michael Jordan hints he'll return to the court, this time as a Washington Wizard. Extensive coverage in this hour. There is something in the air.
It is 8 a.m. in Salisbury, North Carolina, 7 a.m. in Chicago, 5 a.m. in Calaveras County, California, where the news is being made on this Tuesday, September 11th.
From CNN.
Anyway, that's all coming up. 8:01. Let's get to the top news stories of the morning. For that, we turn to Ann Curry.
Because now we have a camera. Katie Matinelle, thank you so much this morning. Good morning, everybody.
For additional tax cuts?
He sure has. In fact, if you can believe it, this morning, he's already been asked about it. Before dawn this morning, he was out jogging. Reporters said, how about more tax cuts? He said, I'm not going to talk about it.
Now here's Tom Brokaw with a look at what's coming up tonight on NBC Nightly News.
Thanks, Ann. Tonight, three numbers that could save your life. 911, 190 million calls each year, but you won't believe the problems we found.
You're tired of waiting outside in, the summer heat or driving rain to see the U.S. Capitol.
Soon you won't have to. CNN has an inside look at the Visitor Center renovations.
And Everybody Loves Raymond. Watch it flying out here on American Airlines.
It is beautiful outside. Perfect September day with lots of sunshine. Oh, would you look at Washington, huh? I'm going outside today.
Mr. Roker, Al, it is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning, although it's not fall yet, so it's still a perfect summer morning.
From the chop from that hurricane, but other than that, it's kind of quiet around the country. We like quiet. It's quiet. It's too quiet.
Thanks so much for coming in, and best of luck with your project. The anthology, once again, is called The Long Road to Freedom.
Thank you, Katie.
Looks wonderful. Up next, a new look at billionaire Howard Hughes. But first, this is Today on NBC.
You after all that cheese, and we know you like Chipotle.
Right, and then you can put turkey and onions. I'm going to take some when we come back. Zane.
Okay.
All right, hang on. We're going to take a break right here. 47 past the hour. We're back after this.
Just a few moments ago, something believed to be a plane crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. We have no idea what it was. It was a tremendous boom.
But isn't in America and in politics, isn't spinning? What is spinning, Charlie?
Well, spinning is getting at your point of view, trying to put your interpretation on something.
So do you think there is a lot of spinning done in politics?
America pageant, but this year things are different. Contestants will be quizzed on current events, U.S. history, and government. 10 of the 51 contestants got a preview. Among the questions, naming the current vice president and knowing what happened December 7th, 1941. 2 contestants didn't know Dick Cheney was the vice president, and 4 missed the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Is news for months. If every Capitol Hill scandal merits weeks of coverage, how much attention do 2.5 million dead merit? It's a story we should have brought you long ago.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center.
Looks like Babyface forgot his razor. A definite new look for you. What are you going for?
What am I going for?
Of Congo. 3 years, 2.5 million dead. We thought you should know.
We want to tell you what we know as we know it, but we just got a report.
He was absolutely the most amazing man that America has ever created, ever.
Okay, I have got to interrupt you right now.
Sorry.
Richard Hack, thank you very much. We appreciate the book is called Hughes. We want to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center where I understand, do we have it? No, we do not. We have a breaking story, though. We're going to come back with that in just a moment. First, this is Today on NBC.
There is a major incident in Lower Manhattan.
And that there's been some sort of explosion.
We have a breaking news story to tell you about. Apparently, a plane
has crashed
into the World Trade Center.
A gigantic sonic boom.
The air is filled with hundreds of thousands of pieces of paper.
Stuff just started falling, like bricks and paper and everything.
We're getting reports that an airplane hit the building.
I hear a plane, then all of a sudden I saw it go right into the World Trade Center.
It would be hard to imagine that a small plane could create that kind of hole in a building like the World Trade Center.
This is a large plane.
You're talking about a large passenger commercial jet.
Large passenger commercial jet.
More than 40,000 people work there. More than 100,000 business and leisure visitors come to the World Trade Center.
If this was an accident, it would be a needle in a haystack.
To you right now as to what is happening, you can see there are choppers. I believe that could be a police helicopter that is... Oh,
Wow.
We just saw.
Oh, my goodness.
If there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
Perhaps purposefully into, oh my goodness.
Oh, God.
There's another one. Oh my goodness, there's another one.
This seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness, now you...
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building.
Another plane just flew into the second tower.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
You saw a plane?
Yes, I just saw a plane go into the building.
We saw a large plane hit the second tower.
I wonder if there are air traffic control problems.
Has to be deliberate, folks.
Why do you say that was definitely on purpose?
I've never seen any. It looks like a movie. I saw a large plane, like a jet, go immediately headed directly into the World Trade Center. It just flew into it, into the other tower, coming from south to north. I watched the plane fly into the World Trade Center.
But what we've just seen is about the most shocking videotape I've ever seen.
Coming in, and this is now in slow motion. Oh, this is terrifying. Awful.
To watch powerless is a horror.
They waited for the coverage. They waited for the coverage. All right, we're going to go back to live.
I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
Oh, my God.
My goodness.
ABC's Peter Jennings is at the anchor desk uptown here in New York and is now in position. Peter, I suspect you are looking at exactly the same pictures. Well, I know you're looking at the same pictures we are.
We are, Charlie. We've been watching it from the beginning. We'll be watching this for much of the day. There is chaos in New York at the moment. There have been not one but two incidents, as Charlie and Diane have so ably reported so far. Newark and LaGuardia particularly have already suspended operations, lest there be a third aircraft or some other untoward incident involved. And ABC's John Miller is with me here, who's been listening efficiently to all of his police sources. And John, I gather the city is ordering a major evacuation from a number of public buildings and a number of these very high-profile targets.
They're going into what they call an Archangel operation, which is a code name for essentially a major lockdown of the city, evacuating the United Nations building, the municipal building, City Hall, Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's residence, all things that could be considered potential targets, because obviously, because of the nature of this with two incidents, there is the potential that this is a double act of terrorism.
The World Trade Center, both towers in flames.
The president is about to begin an education event.
I think the question is, where does that airliner come from?
And as you look at tape of the second plane...
Folks, you see the pictures. It looks like Hollywood, but this is real. Again, these are very unconfirmed. We're trying to be responsible with what we bring you here. But
the FBI is now investigating
hijacking shortly before this incident took place.
Of course, the World Trade Center bombing of '93 that killed 6 people, injured more than 1,000 others.
And U.S. intelligence, FBI people for years have heard that they've always wanted to try and finish that job off.
When the impact hit the first tower, you would hope that people who were in the second tower were beginning to evacuate.
At this time, all elevators are out in both towers.
Thousands of people that have been running from inside these buildings, and they say there was just pandemonium.
Right now, I think the major concern for most people here in New York City is getting the people out of the building and treating the casualties.
The person who answered the phone on the trading floor at interdealer broker Cantor Fitzgerald, located near the top of the World Trade Center, said, "We're blanking dying," when asked what was happening, and hung up.
Appear to be an act of terrorism. Interestingly, ironically, whatever you want to call it, the World Trade Center just hired 2 weeks ago the head of the FBI's National Security Division for Counterterrorism in New York to augment and take over their security.
David, we're going to cut you off. President Bush is speaking.
Today we've had a national tragedy.
Uh-oh, is that President Bush speaking?
Yeah, we're now hearing President Bush.
Let's go to him.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
And his chief of staff, Andrew Card, whispered into his ear. Apparently, the president paused for a moment, was obviously very stunned.
One plane was an American Airlines Boeing 767
from Boston. As we continue our coverage, our Aaron Brown in New York City joining us now. Aaron, we can see over your left shoulder there the building still smoldering of the World Trade Center.
Well, it is a grotesque sight to look at from about 30 blocks away from where we are.
NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange have not opened for the day for obvious reasons.
But Manhattan is in a lockdown. It is sealed off. The Hudson River bridges, the tunnels, the east side, the west side, the north, the south.
That's Air Force One you see in Florida, the president on board. This is election day, a primary election for mayor and city council races here in New York. That election has been postponed.
From a U.S. law enforcement official that they're saying it is evident that this is a terrorist-related attack. And among the key targets, key people that they're looking at is Osama bin Laden. It was just last Friday that the U.S. State Department put out a worldwide caution to American citizens traveling abroad and also to U.S. government facilities.
Senator Ted Kennedy is speaking in Washington as, again, one of the planes was hijacked from Boston.
Here at Capitol Hill, Laura Bush is now speaking with Ted Kennedy. A hearing that was scheduled for her to appear at has been canceled. We would be watching very carefully to see whether she is also asked to leave the Capitol and go to a safe place.
Yeah, Brian Wilson, the Capitol is being evacuated, we're told, and clearly that shot that we have on our screen now, this is the Pentagon just across the river from Washington.
Get an advance notice.
Larry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Jim Miklashevsky has some new information at the Pentagon. I hope you'll stand by and continue to talk with us. Mick?
Katie, I don't want to alarm anybody right now, but apparently it felt just a few moments ago like there was an explosion of some kind here at the Pentagon. We're on the E-ring of the Pentagon. We have a window that faces out toward the Potomac, toward the Kennedy Center. We haven't been able to see or hear anything after the initial blast. I just stepped out in the hallway. Security guards were herding people out of the building, and I saw just a moment ago as I looked outside a number of construction workers who have been working here have taken flight. They're running as far away from the building as they can right now. I hear no sirens going off in the building. I see no smoke, but the building shook for just a couple of seconds. The windows rattled, and security personnel are doing what they can momentarily to clear this part of the building. Again, I have no idea whether it was part of the construction work, whether it was an accident, or what is going on. We're going to try to find those details and get them to you as soon as possible.
We're hearing reports that there is either an explosion at the Pentagon.
Thanks very much. Let's go to the White House. Claire Shipman is on the phone. Claire, what's that we're looking at?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
Are taken next.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at live pictures of the Pentagon where there is billowing smoke. Jim Miklashevsky just reported that he heard an explosion, and right now we're looking at an aerial view of the Pentagon. Mick, can you talk to us?
Officially, nobody knows exactly what happened. I think the picture is pretty clear. Oh my goodness, there is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon.
It has happened again.
Apparently, we're also
Claire, let me interrupt you for a second. We now have fire confirmed at the Pentagon. John McCarthy at the Pentagon can hear me. John, please get in touch immediately if you can and brief us in there. John McCarthy has actually been evacuated from the Pentagon, and parts of the Pentagon are indeed being evacuated. We want to hold our breath here, it just seems to me, for a second, and not get into a mode that the country is under attack.
We are a nation under siege.
In front of the Capitol, and a moment ago, police officers ran up to us and told us, and I quote, "There is a plane that has been hijacked and is headed this way."
In Florida, Jeb Bush has closed the Capitol. The state of California is on high alert. The state's emergency council has convened there. In Colorado, city and state offices have stepped up security around government buildings. In Maryland, security officials tightening security all throughout the state. Security, not surprisingly, heightened at Andrews Air Force Base. Schools are closed there. In Nevada, security has been increased at casinos on the Las Vegas Strip, at federal buildings across the state, at Nellis Air Force Base near Las Vegas. In North Carolina, military bases are preparing for a possible change in status. In Pennsylvania, National Park Service officials meeting to determine whether the city's high-profile tourist attractions, which include the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, will be closed.
That the U.S.-Mexican border has been sealed.
The Federal Aviation Administration has shut down all air traffic nationwide.
We have a report that there's a fire at the State Department as well. That is being evacuated. The White House is being evacuated. The Pentagon is being evacuated. The Capitol, the Treasury building also being evacuated. The Justice Department is now being evacuated. The United Nations has been evacuated. All federal office buildings in Washington, D.C.
It's Vice President Cheney directing operations and monitoring things here at the White House in the White House Situation Room.
As the White House was evacuated today after the Secret Service received credible threats.
There is a plane circling the White House at the moment.
There are sharpshooters on the roof of the White House who have anti-aircraft missiles for just this kind of situation.
The entire hospital staff.
All right, we have lost Molly Falconer's connection. That would not be unusual given the fact that the World Trade Center is a hub of communications.
Are you as stunned as most of us watching this at this point?
Well, you know, yes, I am. Because
all of Lower Manhattan is just standing in the streets on this sunny morning looking at this unrealistic sight. And
probably this will be a greater challenge to our intelligence and our ability to be diplomatic and intelligent about negotiation than it is a challenge to our strength as a military power.
Of attack by aircraft in New York City. This was something that never was ruled out, but, you know, to be prepared for such a monumental occurrence is very difficult.
This is one of these days where we can say that things will not again be the same in the United States of America.
Some of the Secret Service now patrolling the perimeter in Lafayette Park, which is directly across from the White House, have automatic rifles drawn.
There's a report of a second hijacked plane heading towards the Pentagon.
A good portion of the nation's capital, the most powerful center in the world, has been immobilized as well as a result of these terrorist
attacks. And that's
attacks.
A very haunting description that Bob Kerr just gave of that low-flying aircraft near the White House, and one can only wonder if that...
We're not sure exactly what happened, but it was another explosion on the far side of one of the buildings from where we're standing.
Jamie, I need you to stop for a second. There has just been a huge explosion.
Let's go to the trade tower again, because, John, we now have a... What do we have?
We just saw a live picture of what seemed to be a portion of the building falling away.
We don't...
It looks like a new plume, a new large plume of smoke.
Control all air traffic. Marcia, we got to interrupt you. We just saw live from Chopper 2 yet another explosion. Did anybody, Janine, what did you see? You saw, was it an airplane or was it a...
It looked like part of the building, if not most of the top, collapsed, and all the debris from the building was falling down towards the ground.
Look at the smoke. Look at the smoke. This is
the whole building. Did it collapse?
Folks, Jim, let me interrupt you. We are looking at live pictures of the World Trade Center literally starting to crumble.
The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed. The entire building has just collapsed, as if a demolition team set off. When you see the old demolitions of these old buildings, it folded down on itself, and it is not there anymore.
That should be it.
Do we have Jim Smith available on microphone from Chopper 2 as he takes these pictures? Jim?
Yes, I am here, Michael.
Jim, tell us what's happening out there.
Oh my
We just witnessed some kind of secondary follow-up explosion on the World Trade Center #2, the one that is on the south, that is difficult to make out through the debris and smoke, but it does appear that a portion, the top portion of the building, has collapsed down to the streets below.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable. We have seen here the debris and smoke just covering the entire portion of Lower Manhattan.
Thanks very much,
Completely collapsed.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
That's the southern tower you're talking about.
Exactly. The second building that we witnessed the airplane enter had named, it just collapsed. There is panic on the street.
We're talking about massive casualties here at the moment, and we have... Whew. That is extraordinary.
There is panic on the streets. There are people screaming and running from the site. The gigantic plume of smoke has reached me, and I'm probably a quarter of a mile north of there.
Peter.
Now this is what it looked like moments ago. My God.
And I know this was the goal of the terrorist strike back in 1993.
And one eyewitness here in this AP report says he was getting off a PATH train to the World Trade Center and saw bodies falling out of the building. As he approached it, police told him to get out of the building immediately. He ran outside and watched people jump out of the first building, and then there was a second explosion.
This footage we're seeing right now shows that the damage is so severe. I mean, we had seen what seemed to be two fairly self-contained impact craters before, and now it appears something much more dramatic has happened to at least one of those towers.
These pictures are beyond belief.
What appears to be the most deadly and devastating terrorist attack ever against this nation has just occurred in the last hour and a half.
Tell me, based on the plan, what is happening 30 blocks away?
Sure. There are, as you can see, we're getting reports, these are jet fighters. They appear to be. We can't confirm this, but we are getting word from our control room. These are U.S. jet fighters in the air.
Where that happened, there was mostly law enforcement. I don't think there were many civilians there. I don't know.
Over the police radios among the emergency workers, I can hear them screaming.
There's thick ash on the ground, lots of it. Pandemonium here a short time ago. Were people running in this direction? Everyone, law enforcement, people, a woman pushing a baby carriage. This is actually, we believe, debris from one of the planes that hit one of the towers.
Rick Leventhal is the one reporting on the ground. He's not able to hear me at this moment. But Rick...
Just the sound of a plane.
Star jets.
All right. What that guy is covered with is this stuff that's all over the street. Just thick soot, ash.
One of the first places that the FBI will be looking at is Osama bin Laden.
Chris?
Big concern now from the scene that the Northwest Tower, the one remaining standing, is leaning.
I do. CNN is now, believe it or not, reporting an explosion on Capitol Hill.
There was no explosion at the Capitol.
A fire has occurred at the State Department.
People jumping from the buildings, a story that's also been told.
Firefighters are walking down towards the site now, and they literally have been arriving by the dozen. There is a certain level of chaos because they're just trying to sort out who's alive, who's not.
Now, this is a system in which we can actually look at the number of airplanes in the air. We're looking, it looks like only 3 over the immediate New York City.
This is Center Street, looking at all the people
that reported seeing people, as we told you before, jumping from the building.
I did see myself a plane over the Capitol.
One of the most recognizable buildings in the country is gone.
Military jets over Washington, D.C.
That some of the hospitals in New York are already at capacity. The Pentagon, the world's largest office building, being evacuated completely.
Shaking, and, it felt like a bomb hit or a plane hit or something like that. But the whole floor
plane did hit.
A plane did hit. Yeah, and then we looked out the window, all we saw was debris all over the place. But we thought the building was going to topple over. It was going so
Well, one of them did.
One of them did. We were in Tower 1. We made it out.
Well, you're a lucky man.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks.
All right, take care.
Clearly, this is a nationwide catastrophe, but folks, phone lines in New York are virtually shut down.
What's going through your mind when you see this happen?
You see bodies flying out of the sky and you can't do nothing about it. You tell me. You tell me what you think.
Extreme logistical ability that probably makes this singularly the largest, most well-coordinated act of terrorism, not just in U.S. history, but probably
in modern times.
In modern time.
You can see the chaos.
We can see the top of the building from here. Oh, yeah.
And I know that for many of you, you've heard this a lot, but I think it's important as people join us as they do in moments like this. They are coming in all the time, that there have been attacks in 2 American cities, New York and in Washington. The trade centers here in New York have been hit by airplanes. In Washington, there is a large fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been evacuated.
Oh, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes. Oh,
when it comes down, we're
all right. We do need to put it down now. I think we need to put it down now. Here we go.
On these developments, particularly with the schools closed.
Other updates, Cindy?
Wait a second. This is a live picture? This is a live picture. We are seeing the second World Trade Center Tower number 1 has just collapsed, ladies and gentlemen. You see it live in our picture.
Peter.
Let's look at the North Tower quickly,
seems to be coming down.
Oh, my God.
Good Lord. There are no words.
Floating. This is a horrific situation you're watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a child watching and you do not have a parent there, I don't know what to advise you. If you can understand this.
It's hard for an adult to understand.
This is an unbelievable, it's incredible, incredulous.
The second tower.
It's hard to put it into words, and maybe one doesn't need to. Both trade towers.
This is just a horrific scene and a horrific moment.
America, offer a prayer.
One has to assume that thousands of lives have been extinguished.
May God help those who are there and the victims and their families and all the souls that are lost today.
He is on the ground.
Quite extraordinary. These are the emergency workers who are coming back. It was just about 10 minutes ago that we described to you the possibility of that North Tower collapsing. About 5 minutes after we went off the air, it did collapse. Once again, we have no idea at this point the loss of life. I can only tell you there were hundreds of emergency workers down there, about 5 or 6 blocks. It took probably about, I would say, no more than 50 or 60 seconds for that dust cloud, dust and smoke, to literally make it the 5 or 6 blocks up here and begin to envelop us, at which point we started to move out of the way. There were literally dozens and dozens of firemen who were trying to run past us. In fact, our cameraman even put one of the captains in his car and drove him down to a command post. The people who you see here are pretty much all emergency workers. Many of them that I have seen in the last 2 to 3 minutes, quite frankly, are coming out of here. And remember this, these are professionals. They're coming out of there looking literally stunned, in shock, many of them, struggling for breath, obviously in serious distress. Breathing problems are the biggest problem for those who manage to make it safely out of that area down below us. You can't see much more than a block south of me right now. And the World Trade Center probably stands about 10 blocks south of where I am at this moment.
And take a look at the poignant picture you see there. The Statue of Liberty, folks, is still standing.
As we say, the emergency workers now beginning to try to gather themselves. Over there you can see a police emergency service unit. They're trying basically now to reestablish some kind of a safe perimeter. And many of the emergency workers basically just happy to be alive. Certainly that picture tells it all. Many of them just happy to be alive at this point.
There's a haze everywhere. It's very, very difficult to see, but there has been the whole area has been covered by soot and ash. So it looks almost like snow. So as people are coming up the street running from the scene of this new explosion.
That what fell, what I saw fall, had to be at least 40, 50 stories of that building at first. The skeleton was left at about, I would say, the 50 or 60th floor after the shell, after the structure of the building fell down. The skeleton, the steel skeleton, was literally sheaved off, and it took probably about another 30 seconds before the skeleton collapsed into the street. That was the last we saw of the World Trade Center.
I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like this. This whole place looks like a war zone. There's debris everywhere. It's hard to breathe. And when that cloud came at us, I could feel it, the force of it.
We've been told by firefighters here that there is a report of a bomb in this building. This is a school, a high school right here.
We have a report that there has been a collapse at part of the Pentagon itself. There is now in New York and in northern New Jersey a critical shortage of blood.
A blood shortage, we are being told, in Washington.
State Department security officials are denying those reports of a car bomb at the State Department.
Disney World in Orlando has been evacuated. Someone said to me a moment ago, before the day is over, everything's going to be shut down.
I'm going to interrupt you, Senator McCain. These are the first pictures we have in. This is from Somerset County, Pennsylvania. This is United Airlines 93. This was a Boeing 757 bound from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco. It crashed in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, near the town of Shanksville.
We're getting information now that one of the other buildings, Building 7, in the World Trade Center complex, is on fire and has either collapsed or is collapsing.
The president is on his way back to Andrews Air Force Base right outside of Washington. We're told that Air Force One is expected to land in about 15 minutes.
I need to interrupt you. This is a Taliban spokesman talking now in Kabul, I believe.
Sources are telling CNN that there are, quote, good indications that people with links to the Osama bin Laden organization are responsible for today's attacks.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.